The courtroom was tense when the judge leaned forward, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Do you want to explain this video?" she asked, eyes fixed on the landlord. "Or should I play it for the court?" For a split second, everyone froze, lawyers, jurors, even the bailiff. Then the landlord's confidence cracked, his smirk fading. The black mother sitting at the defense table gripped her attorney's hand. Her eyes were red, her shoulders trembling. But for the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. Backhand index pointing right before we roll that shocking moment that flipped this case upside down. Hit subscribe so you never miss another real story where justice finally fights back. Her name was Danielle Morris, a 34-year-old single mother of two, working double shifts as a nurse at Atlanta General. Every night, she came home exhausted, shoes soaked from long hours on hospital floors, but always smiling for her kids. Her apartment at Cedar Grove Complex was small but peaceful. She paid rent on time every time and kept to herself. Her landlord, Mr. Richard Calloway, was the opposite of peace. A 52-year-old white man with slick gray hair and an ego too big for his cheap suits, Calloway owned several old buildings across South Atlanta. He liked control, and he made sure everyone who rented from him knew it. When Danielle moved in, he seemed friendly. He smiled when she signed the lease, joked about keeping good tenants, and even dropped by with paint samples. But it didn't take long for his tone to change. First, there were the jokes. Little comments like, "You people sure like your music loud?" Or, "This isn't the projects, you know?" Then it became harassment. He'd show up unannounced, inspecting her porch, taking pictures of her car, pretending to check leaks inside the unit. Danielle tried to ignore it, tried to stay respectful, until the eviction notice appeared. It was taped to her door on a rainy Tuesday morning. Failure to pay rent. Danielle stood staring at it, confused. She had the receipts, every single one. She called Calloway immediately. "Mr. Calloway, this must be a mistake," she said. "I paid my rent on time. I even have the digital confirmations." But he just chuckled. "Well, I don't have those records anymore," he said. "Guess you'll have to take it up with the court, ma'am." That ma'am came with venom. Danielle hung up, shaking. Something wasn't right. She called her friend and neighbor, Tasha Green, a fiery woman in her 40s who lived across the hall. Tasha listened, jaw tightening. "Girl, he's been trying to push folks like us out for months," she said. "Last month he told my cousin he was tired of Section 8 renters bringing down the value. I've got my security camera pointed right at your door, and I've been catching him snooping around." The next morning, Danielle woke up to the sound of her front door slamming open. Calloway stood there, flanked by two men in maintenance uniforms. "You got 24 hours to get out," he barked. "Court order." Danielle's heart raced. "You can't do this." But before she could finish, one of the men started hauling out her furniture. Her kids, Maya, age 9, and Deshawn, 11, stood crying as their toys and clothes were dumped into the rain. She begged, pleaded, but Calloway only grinned. "You can cry all you want," he said. "You people never last long here." That sentence broke something inside her. Hours later, soaked and shaking, Danielle sat in her car outside the complex, her two children huddled in the back seat. She clutched her phone, scrolling through her payment receipts, screenshots, emails, proof that she'd done everything right. She called a local tenants' rights group, who connected her with attorney Marcus Bell, a young black lawyer with a reputation for taking on impossible cases. When Marcus saw her evidence, he frowned. "This isn't just a civil dispute," he said. "This looks like discrimination and fraud." 2 weeks later, they were in Fulton County Court. Calloway walked in like he owned the place. Slick suit, silver cufflinks, smirk. Danielle sat quietly beside Marcus, her hands trembling. Calloway's attorney, Mr. Dunn, argued that she'd failed to pay rent for 3 consecutive months. He presented ledger records showing missing payments. But Marcus wasn't convinced. He leaned toward the judge. "Your Honor, my client has provided verified transaction receipts, digital transfers with timestamps. If these payments disappeared from the landlord's books, someone deleted them." The judge, Honorable Teresa Wilkins, a calm woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, raised a brow. Mr. Calloway, she said, can you explain this discrepancy? Calloway smiled. Probably a system glitch. You know how these apps are. Marcus leaned forward. A glitch that only affects black tenants? A murmur swept through the courtroom. During cross-examination, Marcus pulled out his next piece of evidence. Mr. Calloway, he said, is it true that you maintain physical copies of tenant files in your office? Calloway nodded. Of course. Marcus continued, and do those files include printed correspondence, payment notices, or eviction drafts? Yes. Marcus turned to the judge. Your Honor, we've subpoenaed those files, but before they were submitted, we received an anonymous video. It might shed light on what Mr. Calloway does with those records. The judge looked curious. Proceed. Marcus handed a flash drive to the bailiff. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered. A grainy video from a security camera. The date stamp matched the day before the eviction. The footage showed Calloway inside the building's management office, alone, shredding papers. Then he picked up a folder labeled Morris D. He looked around, then muttered under his breath. These people think they can outsmart me. Not in my building. He tossed the folder into the shredder. The courtroom erupted. Danielle covered her mouth in shock. The judge banged her gavel. Order. But Marcus wasn't finished. He had one more video. This time it was clearer. Shot from across the street, outside Danielle's apartment. It showed Calloway and two workers dragging furniture out of her unit while she stood crying in the rain. In the background, his voice could be heard. Let's clean this place up. Make it look decent again. Maybe next time we'll get tenants who belong here. That line echoed through the courtroom like a bullet. The judge turned pale. The jury stared at Calloway like he was poison. When the lights came back on, the landlord tried to speak, stammering. Take that video's fake. It's edited. Marcus stood, calm but firm. Your Honor, this footage came from Ms. Green's home security system, time-stamped, unaltered, and it matches the metadata from the plaintiff's own phone records. Judge Wilkins sat back, shaking her head slowly. Mr. Calloway, you've not only lied under oath, you've violated federal fair housing law. Danielle's attorney placed a hand on her shoulder. For the first time, she exhaled. The verdict came 2 days later. The judge ordered Calloway to pay full restitution, cover all legal fees, and compensate Danielle's family for emotional distress. But more importantly, she referred the case to the Department of Justice for potential hate crime investigation. The moment the gavel struck, Danielle's kids hugged her, crying. Tasha cheered from the gallery, and Marcus looked over at Calloway one last time. You said people like her don't belong here, he said quietly. Seems the court disagrees. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. Danielle stood in the sun, her children beside her. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was proof. Justice, she said softly, doesn't always come fast, but it comes. Backhand index pointing right. If stories like this give you hope, hit that subscribe button, because every share, every comment, helps bring these real struggles to light. Together, we can make sure the truth never gets buried.